Now here is a demo of the making of Babylon Sisters. Why did I choose this one? Well, it's my favourite Steely Dan tune, I think. And it also means that I can get into singing all these brass parts and stuff down here in the blue, the audio tracks here. So I've done backing vocals and brass parts. Now I've had to write the parts out like this, you know, just putting chord charts down and writing stuff out for myself. Just makes the recording process a little bit easier. So looking at the green tracks, we've got drums, bass, keyboards and a couple of guitars, and then this, the sort of the erhu for my solo. I decided I'd use this fantastic sounding instrument. It's this little two-string. Just a nice addition to GarageBand, really. So anyway, I'm going to show you how I edited the drums. Now this is the Purdy shuffle. I mean, this is pretty hard to program, and really I can't do the part justice, really. You know, you listen to the Bernard Purdy track, it's just amazing. But anyway, I've put it in using this arrangement here. Now what I've done is I've had to do it in 24th notes. So there are 6 little steps per beat. Now the display here shows only 6, 12, 16 steps, but you can make it any step length you want. So what I've actually done is I've got the Purdy Shuffle 2. Here we go. There we go. So some of these I've got some note repeats. So if I just go to the next page on here, I've got a couple of snare drums there, so it's like a little flam, so that you can hear that in the part. Here it comes. So I could have 3 notes or 2 notes. I've had 2 notes there. So I've also changed the velocity of some of these drums as well, so that the hi-hats are kind of almost randomized. So there is you can see the detailed sort of editing of this on my channel. I've done a step editing tutorial. So the bass part I played in literally on the fretboard here, and just played it in on the fretboard like this. And I've just used the muted sound there. And I've got the piano part, which I've also played in. Now I used a conventional USB keyboard hooked up to the sort of camera kit, the USB to Lightning connector. And that just basically makes it much more user-friendly to play in, and the Rode sound is particularly good. When you connect a piano up, it's very good. Now I elected not to quantize this. So you can see that some of the notes are very slightly later than the others, because there's all sorts of things, like at the end when I put my solo in, there are a couple of things which basically wouldn't suit quantizing, such as the end of bar 60. And yeah, I mean, there are some, if you listen to it on its own, it's slightly questionable in timing, but when you put it with the groove, with the drums, it does have a certain freedom with it. Now the guitars, I've actually recorded one guitar part, and then I've put it onto another track, so you get 2 guitars which are panned. So classic clean and roots rock. Now, if I was doing this with actual guitars, I would do exactly this. I would record the same part twice and then pan them. So I've just chosen different sounds. You can see that on here the sounds are, the notes are exactly the same all the way through. Now, the solo, I've used the erhu here. So if I just go from here. So I've tried to keep it sort of as simple as possible. On the original, it's sort of a muted trumpet, and it really does match the sort of mood really well. So I've just used that instead, the erhu. So then all the vocal parts here. I've recorded the lead vocals just as a single take, and what I have done is I've split the tracks so that all the silences are removed, because the mic on GarageBand, although it's very good, it can, if you have lots of tracks, you can actually add the sort of inherent hiss and noise, sort of 16-fold or however many tracks I've recorded. I've used all of the tracks available on GarageBand. Here there are 32 tracks, but if you use one of these green ones where they're stereo samples, they count as 2 tracks. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and then that's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. Yeah, I've miscounted somewhere. But yes, you can only use 32 mono tracks, so any of these stereo samples count as 2 tracks. So, recording the vocals, you can see that there's a level on the left at the moment. That's just my voice being picked up by the GarageBand mic. But if I just play you the lead vocals on their own. Drive west on Sunset to the sea. Turn that jungle music down. Now, I've made the track quite present, quite trebly here. If I go into this setting here, you can see that the treble I've ramped up a bit with a compressor on. That's just to try and make it sort of sound a bit smoother. If I take the treble off, you can tell that it's kind of the internal mic. I mean, I could play the mix and vary the treble, and you can hear that it might sit better maybe. Drive west on Sunset to the sea. Turn that jungle music down. Yeah, and now I've taken the bass end off. The thing with recording with the mic is that you really want to, with a visual EQ here, just cut the bass end, the very lowest frequencies. I mean, you can cut them lots or not, but it's just if you've got lots and lots of microphone parts together, there's an awful lot of low end that you wouldn't really notice that's there until you try to start mixing the bass and the kick drum together, and you think this is sort of vagueness about the bass, and that is usually down to things like microphones picking up a lot of bass end. So that's my lead vocal part. Now my backing vocals here, I've actually recorded this in several sittings. I did some of it in a travel lodge hotel, the bass and the keyboards when I was away on a business trip, but all of the other bits I've recorded in a studio elsewhere. I've recorded them in my room. I've recorded them in other places. So consequently, the mic gain is a little bit different for some of these backing vocals. Hence the yellow circle that you can see around the volume controls here, which is the automation. So if I just click on that and go automation, you can see that a yellow line comes up. And you can see that these parts I recorded were slightly lower in level, so I had to ramp the level up a bit just to make it all sort of fit together. There we go. So if I just give you the backing vocals on their own. Babylon sister, shake it. Babylon sister, shake it. Now I ramp the level up. And here we go. Tell me I'm the only one. So, yeah, there we go. So there's the backing vocals. Now, with the brass parts, let's just click done, and that will shut the automation off. There we go. I've got some other things here. So if I just solo everything else that goes down the page, there we go. Now what I've done is, because of the limited number of tracks, because I've recorded so many things, I mean, when I say limited, it's only slightly limited really. There's masses that you can do. This is also in response to a question that somebody asked me on one of my YouTube videos, saying, will this iPad trip up with all of this audio going on? And the answer is, this one doesn't. It's the 128 gigabyte 5th generation iPad of 2017. And it seems completely happy to play back all these tracks and with plugins. Immense power, really. So here is the first chord. Or the first phrase. So there are basically 3 of each. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, one of them I'd cut off for some reason. But a couple of the parts at the bottom I had to sort of make do with 2 parts, because this, if I just go into the effects channel, you can see that the pan is on the center, left and right for this first part. Then I've got the same again. But on the bottom 2 parts, I've actually panned them ever so slightly left and right, because I ran out of tracks. Ideally I would have had 3 of these, but there are 2 each at the bottom. But it's enough. It's enough to be going on with. So if I just go back to this section, maybe this is everything. Babylon sister, shut up. Babylon sister, shut up. So there's quite a lot of hiss there, but you know, it's fine. Now, if I go on a bit further, now when you're recording something like that, which is really close harmony, you're better off just muting the part that you've done before singing the next part, so you can pitch your notes without having to sort of fight with the vocal parts that are there already. So you can get some really good results if you do that. Babylon sister, shut up. So there we go. There's a way of recording all your vocals. They are quite toppy, it must be said. There is quite a lot of treble there, but it does mean that you can have them lower in the mix so that you can still hear them. Now, most of them are also compressed. If we go on to here, yeah, I've got a compressor on most of these channels, just to make those vocals stick out a bit. So if I put this bit in context. Aim for 3, Babylon sister, shut up. Babylon sister, shake up. So fine, so young. Tell me I'm the only one. So I've had to also keep an eye on the level of the vocals. When I did the first take of the lead vocals, it was very, very overloaded, very distorted. So if I just go on to the page that you would see if I was recording Babylon, Yeah, that's far too high. Babylon! You can hear it very fizzy, and it sort of bashes the top of that meter there. So the best thing to do is just to take it down. Babylon sisters, shake it, Babylon sisters. So as long as you take it down like that, you'll be fine. Now, the pitch control here on these vocal parts, I've elected to switch it off. So that I can get not only try and sing as accurately as possible, but it can be very, very vague. That's my only criticism of that track. If I just put the lead vocal on, and then I'm going to switch the pitch control on, which actually you get from this one here. Here we go, plugins and EQ, enhanced tuning. Drive west on Sunset to the sea. Turn that jungle music down, just until we're out of town. So if it's too much, it'll take the vibrato that you're doing and think that you're trying to sit on a single note, and it sort of sounds a bit vocodery. So actually, I've just switched it off altogether. It's great if you're just trying to maybe sing a note and it's sort of wavers about a bit. That's fine, but generally speaking, I've just kept that sort of on the straight and narrow, really, trying to get that accuracy myself without sort of relying on the pitch correction. So the very ending of it, I've just put some backing vocals just to seal it off after this solo. And there we go. It's by default put an echo on the vocal channels, but I actually quite like it, so I just left it unhindered, unadjusted. But if you want to take the echo off, it's just this control at the bottom left here. You just notch that out, and the echo you can you can change the echo a bit. So default, it's sort of it's like a quarter note echo. So but you can have a little play. If you don't want that echo, you can actually have another one here. If I was to edit this maybe and get rid of enhanced tuning and instead have a delay. There we go. Where are we? Track echo. Now you can actually set the repeat time and the repeat amount and the colour, so whether the repeats get darker in tone or lighter. So if I just give you a demo of that, just keeping the lead vocals soloed here. So Babylon sisters, shake it, shake it, shake it. So if I take the colour all the way down, shake it, it sort of makes it much duller, whereas the other way, shake it, you can hear that they actually get more trebly. You can actually have the repeats a little bit more just to illustrate, just to get that effect. Shake it, and turn the wet control up as well. Shake it. So there's a few things there. I'll just switch that off now. So making this, really the green tracks had to come first. Originally I had the Purdy shuffle thing. I programmed it and then I just changed bits. For example, just before the chorus here. Distant lights from across the bay. Babylon. Bum, bum, Babylon sisters. I did that same thing there as well. The bass, as I said, was a continuous run through. So there is a sort of making of Babylon Sisters. Sorry, just a brief thing on the guitars. I did actually play the parts in on the fretboard. But you can play them in using the piano sound, and it's under other instruments on the keyboard setting, and you can access the same clean and distorted guitars and all that sort of thing. So there we go, there it is, Babylon Sisters. Hope you enjoy.